as long as you're keeping up with it, you're kind of giving yourself a better chance to succeed.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the High Level Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, I'm joined by Mike Mancini. He's the founder and CEO of Mancini Digital. They are a Google Ads focused agency that's been servicing local service businesses for nearly a decade. Mike, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
I love talking to ads specialists because, as we were chatting about before we flipped on record, I feel like they're always in demand. Like, people are always looking for somebody that really knows what they're doing with Google Ads because it's a world within itself.
Yeah, it can be a little daunting. And for people, a lot of the time they try it themselves and then find out that, I'm not sure I really want to be spending my time learning this whole new technology and platform, and keeping up with the changes can be a nightmare. So it was kind of a
Yeah.
niche that we fell into.
Well, the first thing that we're going to talk about today is simplification, right? Not trying to focus on, it's sounds great to be a full service agency, right? To be able to say, yes, we do that to any question that a potential client throws at you. But I think you're sort of in the opposite camp where it's like, no, you really want to focus, narrow down into one thing and get really great at that. Is that what you would say?
I would agree with that. Yeah. When we started our agency, we were like a lot of other people who have agencies where they were doing SEO, social media, ads, Facebook ads, whatever it might be. And because as a new agency, you want any new client that you can get. And they're like, well, what about this? You're like, yes, we can do that. So we had all of these different services we were offering, but we kind of sucked at all of them. You know what I mean? We were competent, but we weren't a specialist. We weren't excellent at any one thing, except really Google Ads, because I had done that for my own business and I'd had some great success with an e-com business that I sold years ago. So that was the one thing that I knew really how to do. But when it goes the same with not just agencies, but business owners, when they start their business, they try to do everything. They
Yeah.
try to do everything from Google ads, they'll try Facebook ads, they'll try YouTube, they'll try TikTok and Clubhouse, and they're putting, all of these different arms out and just kind of seeing what will work, but you're not doing any one of them really well.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided just to niche down and go straight to Google ads about 8 years ago.
So that's really interesting because I do see a lot of truth in that, right? In the beginning, you sort of need to say yes a lot to get your clients and whatnot. But I do find that experienced agencies, it takes a while to get there, right? To get to a point where you're so good at one thing where you're like, you know what? Forget these other services. It's not our sweet spot. We could really be the best in this one thing. And that can be a really successful model because I'm sure you get hit up from other agencies asking you to help them with Google Ads, right?
Yeah, companies will hire us to go help train their staff with it.
Mm-hmm.
It opened up a lot of different avenues that we never saw coming. We don't just teach or do Google ads for clients now. Sometimes they want to bring it in-house. So we open up a consulting part that, we go in and train their staff. We've had other
Mm-hmm.
companies hire us to help them out. And I never saw that happening. And then we also train people to do Google ads just in their own businesses. So
Yeah.
it kind of opened up all these different streams, and we're like, oh, this is actually pretty cool, because we're never going to get all the clients from one sector, but we've got handfuls from all these different places, and you kind of really find out what you're passionate about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, to become experts, you guys have to be masters of systems, right?
Yes.
Can you talk to me about what it took to get to a point where you feel like you're running like a well-oiled machine?
Yeah. And that kind of goes back to simplifying everything. Everybody thinks that they have to have all of these different systems and processes, excuse me. The issue with that is take technology, for example. You try to, you've got 20 different software tools. And if, I know, about building funnels, you've got your email, you've got your payments, you've got your funnel, you've got all these different systems working together, and one thing can break very easily.
Mm-hmm.
But if you strip all that away and just simplify your processes, as far as, I don't need to have a process set up right now for optimizing a Google Ads campaign if I'm just starting out, right? I need to worry about how to get it set up correctly. Then
Right.
I can worry about optimizing. So the processes are fine to have, and have a system to go through, but you don't necessarily, I think a lot of business owners will try to be like, okay, well, when I get there, I need to be ready. And they spend all this time setting up all these processes and systemizing everything. And it's not quite perfect. So I'm going to go back and redo this. And they never get anywhere. They
Right.
just stuck right there. So, what we try to do is we're like, hey, we're on step one. You're worried about step 8. Don't worry about anything past step 1. Let's get this and then move to the next step. And that's how we work with our clients as well. We're not talking about how they're going to onboard all these clients until we're like, listen, you're not going to, with your budget, you're not going to get all these flood of clients immediately. Don't worry about that yet. That is a process that we'll work on down the road. Right now,
Mm.
we need to figure out exactly who your right client is. So, and especially with business as well, people, all the tools and everything out there, you've got 47 tools that everybody feels like they need to have. And then they look at their credit card bill one month and you're like, $3,000. How did I spend? I don't even use these. I signed up for them because the marketing is so good. You feel like you need it. And then they
Oh,
just
well,
never end up using it.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir on that one, and we love the feedback we get from our customers who are able to consolidate so many tools, and they're
Yes.
just like, I just cut out $5,000 a month and spend. This is amazing, and we're like, woo.
Yeah.
So we know that pain.
And that's a great,
But
great thing about your guys' tool is that you have all those tools in one spot and it all works together already. You don't have to connect it with Zapier and do all these different things. And
yeah,
too many things can break.
you pointed out, I mean, it's really the benefits of working with a sort of a mentor or coach, right? Because it's sort of a chicken and egg, as you just pointed out. In the beginning, you can't really over focus on building this huge system. You need to get clients, you need to service them, you need to get the basics running, you need to get good at it, this and that, before you can really start fine tuning things. But you do want to have a process, right? Because if you don't, it's going to take you even longer to get to the point where you can start, fine tuning things. And that's why I feel like I love talking to people about, being open to mentorship, because you can find somebody who can really help you leapfrog a lot of the chicken and the egg sort of trials and tribulations that are in part of the natural journey.
I totally agree with you. In fact, I wish I would have hired a coach or a mentor years ago to tell me this stuff and show me,
Mm-hmm.
because I ran through that I was stuck for like 2 years, 2 or 3 years probably, just with the same amount of clients. I'd lose one, I'd have to worry about going and getting another one, and I couldn't scale,
Right.
And then I started working with a coach, and they were the ones that kind of turned me on to a lot of this stuff. And I'm going, oh, not only was I saving money, I was saving time. My life was easier. It was because I was concentrating on the one thing, and that was just getting clients. I wasn't worried about step 10. And it's one thing that we run into a problem with a lot of our students in our agency training program is they are so worried about building Google Ads systems for their agency. And I'm like, no, you're not building anything yet. You don't have no clients. You need to worry about step 2 or step 3. Our module 3 is all about clients. You need to only worry about module 3. The rest of it is step by step. You can walk through it. But I just hammer that home all the time. You have to get clients. Without that, you don't need any of this. If you don't have any clients, you're not going to need to know how to do it. Don't spend a week trying to figure that stuff out when you should just only be going out and getting clients.
So that leads us sort of to the next chicken and the egg, in my opinion, which is when you're starting out and you're young agency, you need clients, right? Just get clients, right? But then you get to a point of maturity where you're like, hey, you need to start getting better clients.
Yes.
Right. Qualifying clients before you waste time going down a path that's not going to be a good one.
Yeah.
How do you work through that with younger agencies?
Well, it's the same thing. It was growing pains, right? We're taking everybody we could get. Oh, you want to pay us today? Okay, well, we'll have that income coming in. I'm not looking at 3 months down the road, and now I find out, I hate it when I call somebody and they ask me, what's your budget? But I preface that with, listen, I'm going to ask you what your budget is, because if it's not to a certain level, Google Ads is not for you. If you've got $200 a month, you're not going to get anywhere. It's all data. You're buying data, and you can't. optimize that data without, without those clicks, and you just don't have enough money.
Right.
I would spend 45 minutes on a call with somebody and then finally get to the budget and they're like, we have $300 to spend. I'm like, oh, you're killing me, and it was probably going through 50 of those phone calls to realize this is not working.
Mhm.
So, we also qualify clients by explaining to them it's not a short-term solution. You can turn Google Ads on and get leads tomorrow, but it's becoming so competitive. People are realizing it works, that more and more people are doing it. There's more competition, costs are higher, which is, like with anything. But we always tell our clients, listen, I don't want to work with you 2 months from now. I want to work with you 2 years from now,
Right.
because we want to set the, but with that said, it is a 60 to 90-day process for us to really get it dialed in, based on your budget. It's a 30 to 60-day process. Obviously it's shorter if they're spending more. But we really almost try to scare them a little bit into, you need to prepare yourself for 2 to 3 months of this really churning, of us really getting, the data and optimizing it before it's, running really well. You're
Right.
not going to turn this on and become a millionaire tomorrow.
Right. No, it's great advice. I mean, I feel like, especially when you're a young agency entrepreneur and you're really passionate about it, you love hopping on the phone and just chatting with anybody and giving them all the tips you've got and da da da. But then, an hour's gone by and you're like, wait, you only have $300 a month budget? Like, oh man, I mean, it's been great chatting, but like, you do that a couple of times and you're like, I just wasted half of my day. What am I doing here? So you do have to kind of get good at putting a
Well,
qualification system in place that's not going to scare everyone away. But
and the other piece of that is we really only want to talk to people who already understand the value of marketing.
mm,
It's amazing, and it blows my mind that people start a business and they think it's all referrals. I'm like, that's great when you're, for 10 years, if you, want to still be where you're at in 10 years.
yeah,
It's, but they don't realize we have to market. You cannot put a website up anymore. When I started, you could put a website up and have it ranked, in SEO in a week. It was
yeah,
the Wild West, and it was
the
awesome.
good old days.
Oh yeah, and you could, Google Ads. I was running ads for my t-shirt business for like 5 and 10 cents clicks. You can't do that anymore. So we want to talk to people who understand the value of marketing, and typically when we are marketing our company, we're only reaching out to people who are already marketing, who
Mhm.
already have a budget, who already realize, oh my gosh, this is what I need to do. Because otherwise you have to sell them, number one, on why they should market,
The
and number
original
two, how to
concept.
market.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's, once we find out if they're marketing, then we'll talk to them about their budgets and things like that. But it gets really hard because when you get a client who's never marketed before, and you have to train them,
Yeah.
and make them understand the value. And most of the time they can't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Well, let me ask you a question, Mike. When I love to talk to specialists in something specific so I can get a little sort of industry update. Where are we at the current state of Google Ads? I mean, I still call it AdWords, right? It's
Yeah.
Google
I get
Ads
a lot of
now.
people do.
And there's been a lot of new things that I've heard about, but I haven't personally interacted with, like Google's versions of the Facebook lead ad, stuff like that. What are you seeing coming down the blind? What are you excited about? What are you worried about?
you know, I've kind of trained myself to not get scared or excited about too many things, because if they're beta testing, sometimes we'll get involved in a beta test with an account and it works really well.
Mhm.
And then we move it to another account and it bombs. So obviously that's why they're beta testing it. Other times they might start something and it doesn't work as well. Or they decide that, you know what, we're not going to keep this anymore. Or once we get excited about a certain tactic or even piece that they offer, sometimes they'll pull that away, and you're just like, so you just kind of got to go with the flow. Well, it's one of the reasons why we had to go strictly to Google Ads. The changes are so fast and furious. And I've told a lot of people that I kind of have to reinvent my business every 6 months.
Mm.
I'm sorry, dog's barking, but I've
No,
got
you
to,
can hardly hear it.
oh, okay. I, we have to, go in, Google will send out an update and we have to go in and update every client's campaign. And while that's sometimes a pain, but sometimes it's stuff that really works and helps get them more leads for their money. But I've just learned not to get too excited or too upset about it, because I know tomorrow it's going to change again.
Yeah, it's a good point. And you pointed out another good point about becoming a specialist, and which is reinventing, continuing to innovate. I feel like when you spread yourself too thin, you get caught in this trap of like, shoot, when was the last time we even looked at their AdWords campaign? Because we've been busy doing all these other things that they're complaining about or they're asking about or whatever. And the next thing you know, you've sort of fallen behind, like, oh shoot, they changed this whole thing. I didn't even see that, and so I do see the value in becoming experts in something really specific so that you can go deeper in it than your competitors will.
Well, and we
because
get a lot
of probably look at I'm sure you hop into accounts that had been working with other agencies and see things in there like, wow, what the heck was going on here?
Well, right. But we also get a lot of clients that call us who have been running their own ads. And they're like, I turned these on and they were doing great 3 years ago. And then you go in and they haven't made a change for 2.5 years. And you're like, that's why. That's why they're not doing as well. So it's Google's also put kind of safeguards in their system where if you don't keep up with it, they're kind of scoring you on that. It's their optimization score. And whether you implement those changes or not, which I would suggest you know what you're doing before you hit that accept button, as long as you're keeping up with it, you're kind of giving yourself a better chance to succeed. That's why a lot of business owners, they don't have the time or the expertise to dive into these and keep up with the changes and know what's happening in the industry and know what you should be doing. So it's definitely something that we specialize in. I'm glad we did. But at the same time, it was a lot of learning. There's so much going on and they change it so often.
Well, speaking of learning, if people are watching and they're interested and they're like, yeah, we would love to actually become better at AdWords. And here's an interesting, before we get to your coaching program, I've found in our personal experience of running an agency, and I mentioned this before we started recording, it's always been so hard to find great AdWords folks, Google Ads folks, because if you're really good at it, you go start your own agency, right? And so for us, it was really hard to hire a great Google Ads person that wanted to stick around. And it was sort of like we came to the conclusion, we're like, we need to just train them ourselves. And so I feel like there's probably a bunch of agencies, young agencies watching this saying, yeah, we really do need to start training or put this into our plan so that we can offer Google Ads if we're not, because it's a critical service. I mean, like you said, you can turn it on today and be generating business tomorrow.
Right. But you do have to have a full-time person doing it.
Yeah.
You cannot start bringing clients on and just leave those accounts sit there for 2-3 weeks on end. You go back in and you look and you're like, oh, people are typing in this keyword and it's just they're clicking our ads and it costs us 20% of our budget. It's
really easy to waste money and
very, very easy. You've got to have somebody watching it all the time, whether it's hiring it internally or hiring an agency. You just have to know that somebody is there watching it, because it can waste money so fast.
So if people are interested in learning more into the program that you've set up, where should they head?
So our agency is Mancini Digital, Mancini, mancinidigital.com. And then our Google Ads agency, which to train people how to open and start and run their own Google Ads agency, is adsagencyunlocked.com.
adsagencyunlocked.com. Awesome. We'll be sure to link that up below and put it in the post.
Appreciate that.
Mike, thanks so much for coming on to chat about all this.
Yeah, it was awesome. I appreciate you having me.
I think, I do want to stress it before we break. If you're a young agency entrepreneur and you're not offering Google Ads as a service, it's really critical on my mind. It's the counterbalance to the long-term strategy of SEO. It's going to take months to get your clients ranking. They want business right away. And AdWords, not Facebook ads, contrary to popular belief, is the place where you get really solid leads right away. And so, if you do need help with that, Mike seems like a great resource. So I would head over to that URL and check it out.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, and thanks everybody for watching. We will see you in the next one.